How's it going, everyone? This is Bluefire444, and today we're going to be doing the top 10 classic 2D platformers. Why classic? Well, there have been a lot of modern 2D platformers, especially indie games, but I really haven't been doing a good job keeping up with them, so it would be unfair to put them on the list. So today we're going to be limiting the entries to only games that came out before 2000. I think that's a pretty objective place to make the cutoff. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Number 10, Adventure Island. Now, Adventure Island is probably one of the most straightforward and simplistic 2D platformers on this list, and I can understand a lot of modern gamers not really being able to appreciate it because it kind of has, I guess, a little bit of stiff controls and maybe a little stiff gameplay by modern standards, but I think anyone who can appreciate a good 80s platformer will really enjoy this game. Number 9, Super Mario Bros. 2. And yes, the North American Super Mario Bros. 2. I know this game gets a lot of hate, but I think out of the original trilogy, it had the best level design, best controls. I think it was just overall the funnest game, and yes, that includes Super Mario Bros. 3. Now, I feel like a lot of people kind of hate this game for the wrong reasons, but I've talked about that in another video. But suffice it to say that this was a classic NES platformer that I think, had it been named differently, would have been just as respected as any other. Number 8, Vector Man for the Sega Genesis. Despite having some of the best graphics for the system, the gameplay is actually really good too. Like most other shoot-em-ups, you run around, collect power-ups, defeat bosses, and shoot enemies. It's a really fun and pretty unique feeling 2D platformer that a lot of people wished had some more sequels to it. Number 7, Ristar for the Sega Genesis. Now, a lot of people consider Ristar to pretty much be Sonic's forgotten younger cousin, but he's much more than that. Despite having only one real game, Ristar I think is one of the best 2D platformers I've really ever played. The gameplay, the music, the art style is just so awesome. It's just classic 16-bit gaming, and I know I'm really surprised that it really wasn't a big hit. This game had truly had potential to be huge. Number 6, Altered Beast. Now, when I think of the best early Sega Genesis games, Altered Beast is definitely one of the first games that come to mind. Despite being, well, kind of short and sweet, I think this is a game that I could pretty much pick up and play anytime, and see how far I can get without dying. It's just a great 2D platformer, and I guess it has some elements of a beat 'em up too, so if you're into that sort of stuff, I'd highly recommend this. This is one of my favorite Sega Genesis games ever. Number 5, Castlevania Rondo of Blood for the PC Engine. Now, I actually played this game on the Virtual Console, but still, I'd have to say it is by far my favorite Castlevania game of all time. I'm not a huge fan of the RPG ones, so when it comes to the more platformer linear ones, I think this is by far the best. This game is just so much fun, despite the difficulty. If you love Castlevania and you haven't given this game a try, I encourage you to play this so much. I think this game is just much funner than the NES games. I don't really know why, but if you're into Castlevania and you haven't tried this yet, you are really missing out on one of the best games I've ever played. Number 4, Super Mario World. What is there to say about Super Mario World that a million people haven't already said? Well, just about nothing. So all I can tell you is that ever since this game came out, it's been one of the most beloved games ever made, and for good reason. It's one of the best, so if by some chance you haven't played this game already, you're definitely doing something wrong. Number 3, Mega Man X. I don't know why, but this game is just so fun. I don't know why. It's the great controls, great level design, awesome music and art style. I don't know, it's just so much fun. And out of all the Mega Man games I've ever played, I just find myself enjoying this one the most. And if you've never played a Mega Man game before, I think this is probably actually a really good one to start with, because the difficulty is a bit more forgiving than the NES games. But nonetheless, you've probably played this game, and you know how awesome it is. Number 2, any of the classic Sonic games for the Mega Drive/Genesis. Although it might not necessarily be able to be said about today, back in the early 90s, just about everything Sonic was in was pretty much awesome. He was just in so many great games that he really was the character to beat. All these games had the perfect controls, great level design, awesome music. It's hard to believe that he would make anything that was less than awesome. But nonetheless, despite whatever he might have done after this, the classic games on the Genesis will always be remembered as some of the best games ever made. So, what are your predictions for number 1? Well, I'll give you a clue. It's a Mario game. But now you're thinking to yourself, how can it be a Mario game? We already know it's not Super Mario Bros. 3 or Super Mario World, and this list only goes up to 2000, so it can't be any of the newer stuff. So what is it? Well, number one, surprisingly to some, is actually Yoshi's Island for the Super Nintendo. Now, when a lot of people hear the words Yoshi, Princess Peach, Wario, or Donkey Kong in the title of a Mario game, you can pretty much safely assume that it's going to be kind of a little bit of a comparatively forgettable spin-off. But Yoshi's Island is honestly my favorite 2D Mario game ever. I think the controls were perfect, the level design is absolutely unrivaled by any other 2D platformer. I think no matter how great Mario World or Mario 3 or whatever is, they don't even hold a candle to the near perfection that is the level design and controls of this game. And not to mention the art style is awesome too. The music is disturbingly catchy. The art style is just really always fun to look at. And I think, aside from of some of the 3D games, this is simply one of the best Nintendo games ever made. And if you haven't tried it, just thinking it's some random spin-off, you're really, really missing out.